back there in the back, you can scan. Right over here to my left, you can scan. And so once you find them, you're going to be entered into our raffle, okay? And so in order for you to win, you're going to have to be present at 4:30 when the raffle comes, okay? So I want you guys to make sure that you're mindful of that. All righty. Now, just to give us a little history, of course, about our book confab, it started in 2022 in Tribeca, New York, okay? And so, Bill, it's an informal gathering, of course, of authors and book enthusiasts like you that are sitting out there. We're so happy to have you here with us. Now, we couldn't stop there, obviously. And so we went on to San Francisco in April of 2023. Then we had to go on to do another one in San Diego in August of 2023. Oh my, we're just doing some big things, right? And then now, oh my goodness, y'all. They went way to Manhattan, New York in December of 2023, which brings us fast forward now to where we are. Where are we, you guys? Oh, that's so good. I love y'all. Yes, Beverly Hills, Book Confab right here. It's so lovely outside today. You know, I can just, shake my hair and everything out there, but it's so lovely. So it's so good to have you guys here with us today. And so without further ado, I want to bring up our VP of Reader's Magnet, none other than John Abuna. You're the next contestant on the Price is Right.
Thank you, Tish. So,
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Beverly Hills. And good morning, world. Right now, wherever you are in the world right now, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. All right. So, today marks the second day of our book confab. This is going to be the last day for the book.
there is actually more.
All right.
The
The same team
is just gonna transfer to downtown and the USC campus for the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on April 20 and 21. Okay, more or less the same setup, but we're in the campus, right? So I cannot wait
to be there with all of you. I cannot wait to let the whole downtown, or the whole of LA that's just gonna converge at the USC, see our books and enjoy our books. Okay, folks. I didn't want to make this long, but I want everyone that's watching live via our socials and here today understand why we are here. Maybe some of you from Chicago, from San Diego, I've already heard me, but I just like to reiterate this message, right? So not only do Reader's Magnet stand by what we believe in, wherein we share your stories with the world, but two main reasons why there is a Reader's Magnet confab. First reason is the obvious, right? We want our books known. We want to represent our books in various cities across the United States. And we'd really like to make everyone see and feel the actual book of our good authors. But another reason, the second and most important reasons, and I hope our dear authors online are listening, is that we want to make a community of independent authors. Okay? A community
brilliant and a community of amazing authors. Everyone is a story. But, sad to say, in the traditional publishing world, there's only limited seats in the table.
Yes.
So this is why we are here, right? There are seats in those tables. I'd say those because there's several.
But we would like ourselves known.
Independent authors, because the more authors we have in this book confab community, the louder our voice becomes. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, again, here in Beverly Hills, and ladies and gentlemen, in the internet watching us through our socials, we have to stick together. Yes. Right? We have to stick together just to make sure that, my new friend from North Carolina is actually going to help me spread out the word. My new friend who's going to go back to Haiti is also going to, spread out the word. Yeah. And Rosanna, where are you from? Lakewood. Lakewood, yeah. Oh, well, there is a community in Lakewood. There is a Barnes and Noble in Lakewood. And, this is what we have to do. We're here to not only just network, but create that community. Create that community of independent authors to help us thrust our message, thrust our books, thrust our stories to the world. Awesome. So without further ado, I will give you back to the host, to the hostess with the who is the mostest. Ladies and gentlemen, Tish Barnhart. The hostess.
The hostess who's the mostest, Tish Barnhart. I like that. That's a nice little ring to it, John. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, you guys, we're super excited to have you for day 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get ready to hear from our first author today. And so I'm super excited to hear from her because I have not met her yet. So Rosanna Sneeze, who we're getting ready to hear from, and her book is called Puppy Pavor. Puppy Pavor. I don't know if I'm getting it right, but hey, I'm giving it a try, right? She'll let me know when she comes up here. Now, about the author, Rosanna Sneeze, a licensed marriage and family therapist, dedicates part of her time to assisting individuals in their healing journey through Talkspace. Writing has been a passion for her since she was 11 years old, and it remains an integral part of her life. Alongside her career, Snee finds joy in her roles as a devoted spouse to her best friend and a proud mother of 2 remarkable sons. Additionally, she has authored The Healing Alphabet, 26 empowering ways to enrich your life. Whose life can stand to be enriched a little bit? Yes, okay. All right, Papi Por Favor marks her debut in the realm of young adult fiction, with Snee currently immersed in crafting its sequel. So let's welcome you guys with a round of applause, Rosanna Snee.
Thank you. I'm just happy to be here because I was living a horror show when we got lost on the street. We didn't think we were going to make it. So I'm very happy to be here. And thank you for all for you being here. All right. So there is no love like the first. Who agrees with me on that? Does anybody remember their first love?
Yes, I do. I do.
The first love is hard to forget because it leaves an imprint on the sensory areas of your brain. So memories that are created during your adolescent years leave hormonal imprints at the same time that the neurological the development is forming your identity. Okay, so those imprints can be very intense and elicit very strong feelings when a memory is triggered. So you might hear a song that you dance to, or smell a scent that they wore, or see a photograph, and all those memories can come back. So that is why first love is very important. And this book is about my first love. Okay. The one sitting there is my last love. 37 years coming up in July. Wow. But this book, my story. My story, and I'm going to tell you more about it, but let me give you a little background. So when I was 8 years old, I came from Cuba with my parents, and we left Cuba, a little tiny island, and came to America. So you can imagine that my parents were especially my dad, my papi, and his papi, por favor, like papi, please. So you can imagine how strict he was because he didn't want anything to happen to his little girl. And I was his first daughter, only daughter, and he was going to protect me. So I don't know, it's a cultural thing. In a lot of cultures, you just protect. So I wasn't allowed to date or do what other young girls my age did because God forbid something should happen to me out in the big bad world. So I fell in love with my first crush when I was 17. He had 3 or 4 months toward the end of my senior year when he was transplanted from Tempe, Arizona, and he happened to be in one of my classes. So that relationship wasn't really allowed to bloom because he made the fatal mistake at the age of 16 to come over to my house and play oldies, which he loved, which I referenced in the book. And my parents weren't there yet, but they did show up and they see this guy. Uh-oh. His hair was a little bit longer. And they were very polite, very nice to him. Nice to meet you, Richard. And then eventually he left, went back home. Unbeknownst to him, what was happening at the house. All right, that's it. You're not to see that guy again. No boys, no dating, no distraction. You're almost going to graduate. You call him up right now and you tell him that's it. My heart broke into a million pieces. So like I said, and I had to do that, I called because I was Miss Goody Two Shoes, like Madison is in the book. I'm Madison, by the way, in the book. But all the other players in the book are also a part of me, which I'll mention in a second. All right, so I called him up, said, by the way, I can't, talk to you anymore. And we didn't do anything, we just hung out. I mean, I really, really wasn't Miss Goody Two Shoes. I would never do anything. I was too scared to go against my papi. So that happened, and the rest of the months were just looking at him from afar, talking to him periodically in the classroom. Until the very last day, I still go back to that time where we were walking, and it was my last day because I was a senior. He was a junior, and he walked out with me. We knew this is it. I'm never seeing him again. He's never seeing me again. But that's not the end of the story, but I will be going into that here. I did see him again, but I didn't know I was going to see him again. The point is, that was my first kiss. And he said, there's been something I wanted to do for a long time. And it was just an innocent little kiss. And I'll never forget it. And I talk about that. Of course, I woven that into a story. And if I had done my actual story, the book would have been 10 pages. So I couldn't do that. I had to craft a lot of embellishment in the story to make it good and funny and bittersweet and just family conflict. It's got everything. And you may think, oh, young adult, no, I don't read that. Hey, I never thought young adult was something I would read. And I happened to find one by accident, and I've never stopped. Because it isn't a dumbed down version of books. It is just from a perspective of a younger person. But the book is, anybody can read it. My husband read it several times, and he doesn't read these kind of books. But he's confessed to me, and I don't know if because he's my husband, but he loves it. And I am actually reading it. You can see where I am on the page right now because I actually wanted to be like a reader reading the book, after it was published. So it keeps me turning the pages and I already know what's going to happen. So anyway, all right, let me tell you a little bit more about this is inspired by true events, obviously. But let me tell you about the characters. So there's Madison, me, the Miss Goody Two Shoes. Her parents died when she was a young girl, and she got adopted by the Perez's, which is my name, my what do you call it? The main name. So they were adopted. They have two twin girls, and Martha Carolina and Martha Christina. And you might say two Marthas. Well, I know actually someone who named all their daughters Martha. So that's taken from a true thing. And it is Martha Carolina, Martha Teresa, Martha this, you know. But anyway, so she gets adopted into this family, and unbeknownst to her, her father, Papi, Pablo, is very strict. Rule number 4 says you stay away from boys at all costs. That's it. You better adhere to rule number 4. So it's okay for Madison. She doesn't care. She's had a little crush on Jack Byrne, but he's got the hottest girl in the school, Ava. So she doesn't care until enter Ben Warren into her English class. And all things change because with his charismatic way and sweetness about him, she starts falling. But do you see where there's a problem there? Because she really likes him and he likes her, but what's she gonna do about it? There's not much. So she starts kind of sneaking around against her own sense of moral compass because she really likes him. But guess what? Tina, nerdy Nina, who sits next to her, who doesn't like boys, she likes Ben too. And she doesn't know that Ben likes Madison. So you can imagine all the things that are gonna happen when all the sneaking goes around. So she's got 2 friends. By the way, let me just say this before I go on. Like all the girls are neat, broken up into 5 pieces.
Wow.
There's the me, that's the goody 2 shoes, Madison. Then there's Marty, who is looking for danger on every corner. Everything is a danger. I was raised like that, you know. Oh, don't go there. Be careful. That can happen. You know, so I was raised in that environment. So Marty is the be careful. And Ben, that guy's a problem. Stay away from him. He looks like he just got released from juvie. So we know she can't be told. And then there's Elena. Elena is this beautiful girl who's going to be in the pageant. And she is very spiritual, always quoting Gandhi and Eckhart Tolle, and that's also me. Peaceful and just talking about all the beautiful things in life. Don't worry. The universe has your back. If it's meant to be, it will. That's Elena. And then the 2 twins, Martha, Carolina, Martha, Tina and Caro. Tina is always looking to eat. She loves eating, but she has a really good metabolism, so she doesn't ever, you know, it doesn't affect her.
Good for her.
But she's always looking for food. And so that becomes like a big joke in the thing. Where's, do you have a candy bar? Do you have, you know, melons? Do you have anything? She's always looking for that, buns, whatever. And then her sister is more very conscientious, good student. What's wrong with you, sister? If you eat too much, people are gonna think I'm you at school, and I don't want to be associated, you know. So all of them are me, and I just took the most prominent part and put it out there. So the whole book goes on to all these things that happen, all these, you know, chaotic things. And then Nina, who doesn't know, is coming to Madison because when Madison was in the 8th grade, she helped Nina get this boy. And so now she thinks that Madison is just this matchmaker, and she says, "You're going to help me get Ben." And Madison's like, "Oh my God." So she starts pretending she's going to help get Ben. In the meantime, she and Ben are meeting behind the library and talking and, you know, sharing sweet moments. And this is a very clean book. It's not, you know, nothing happens. My 12-year-old granddaughter is reading it, you know. There are a few cuss words in there because there's some idiots at school. You know, there's a bully at the school, Malcolm, who's always just harassing everybody. So he's got a funny part, even though he's a bully, you know. And then, of course, there's Ben, the sweet Ben. And he really is. He's really nice. I was in love with Ben because he's that nice. So anyway, so the whole story develops, and eventually something's going to happen, right? Because there's going to be conflict. Somebody is going to find out that she's been talking to Ben. And then there's this whole scene where she gets injured and Ben makes the mistake, poor Ben, of walking her home. And then, so, and then there's also a mistake where they go to the carnival. This is toward the end, by the way, guys. She goes to the carnival and everybody's there. All the players are there. So something's gonna happen, right? Somebody's gonna find out the truth. Nina's there with them, sisters, Marty, Elena, Madison, all of them. And eventually the truth does come out and it's not pretty. But while they're there, Madison goes see a psychic. You know, it's a carnival. She goes to see a psychic who tells her the love of your life is here, your destiny is here. And Nina says, well, I'm going to check out the psychic myself. And they tell her, hey, your love of your life is here too. But you got to read the book to know everything that goes on. Okay, so much of the dialogue just comes from my past experience. And the fact that the oldies, Richard really did like oldies. And so I reference that in there. The letter in the back of the book, toward the end, I'm not gonna read it because you guys can go to my book and then open it and try to read the letter in the back of the book, okay? You don't do that. Read the book and then you'll get to the letter. But that letter, I basically copied out of my yearbook. What Richard wrote to me on my yearbook the last day I saw him. So that's got there. And I want to add that, when you're publishing a book, they tell you what kind of a cover do you want. And they give you, choices from the Getty images and so forth. And I was looking at all the images. They're all the same. You go look at young adults, they're all the same. The boy and the girl sitting by the bicycle, or, just their feet. I'm like, oh my God, no, I don't want this. So I decided I would paint my own cover. So this, I painted myself. And thank you. And my son, who's a web designer, he helped me put it on a template to make it into a book cover. So that's what happened with that. Okay. So let me see if I'm missing anything here. Okay, I'm gonna read a little piece of it, okay? I'm gonna read a little piece of it, and then I'm gonna open for questions. What's that?
Read.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna read, okay. The questions and answers are coming. I wanna make sure I covered everything. Okay, I'll get it later. By the way, I am working on the sequel. So if someone reads this book, which I imagine all of you are gonna rush to after hearing this, there is a sequel being in the works right now. I'm halfway through. ReadersMagnet is waiting for it right now. But I'm working on another book that is going to come out first. Forbidden Gratitude, not for kids. Okay. All right. So here is one of the first days that Madison sees Ben come into the classroom. Miss Reynolds is her English teacher. Miss Reynolds was halfway through roll call when the door suddenly opened. In walked a guy I'd never seen before. Interesting. Cute, in a brooding young Cody Christian kind of way. Half-lidded aquamarine eyes scanned the room. Brown, wavy hair fell just below his neck. His well-worn 501s and half-tucked plain white t-shirt gave him a rugged, bad boy appearance. The very type of boy Poppy had repeatedly warned the Marthas and me about. All that was missing was a pack of cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve. Miss Reynolds took a note from him and read it silently as the class watched on, curious as to who this newcomer might be. Have a seat anywhere, she said. And when she was done reading the note, welcome. And he made his way down the aisle, a black JanSport backpack hanging off his right shoulder. Miss Reynolds said, class, please welcome Benjamin Warren. He comes to us from Tempe, Arizona. That's really where Richard was from. Just Ben, he said, taking a seat to my left, his expression serious and almost angry looking. All right, so that's just when she first sees him. Now she goes to meet the girls at the cafeteria. This is Elena. I heard he was really released from juvie last week. But you know the rumor about. I don't believe it. And then Marty, the girl, careful. I know, Marty said, who was as short as Ellen was tall, but just as beautiful. I was in the office this morning, hoping to get out of Mr. Lacoste's PE class and into Miss Smith's instead, when he was ushered in by an armed security officer and a woman. How do you know they weren't his parents, Marty? And I said, an armed security officer? Well, I didn't see a weapon, but I'm sure he had one on him, Marty retorted. Whatever. He seems edgy. And then she comes in and she's like, what are you guys talking about? I asked, pulling out my lunch bag, opening it, and taking out a tuna sandwich wrapped in saran wrap. The new guy. I don't know his name. Oh my God, he sits next to me in class. And then they go on to talk about, and many, many things happen out of this thing. But anyway, that's just a little clip of this. And I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. Okay, I haven't left anything out. Do you guys have any question? Anything you want to ask about Richard? Or I can tell you a story of when I actually did come and meet him again. But anything about the book now? Yes.
So like the theme of this book is like your first love.
Yeah.
Does the second book also have a theme like along the lines of like growing up and finding love and stuff like that?
Yeah, the second book continues when this one ends.
Okay.
So I don't want to give the ending away. Because then you guys are just gonna walk on it. Okay? You guys gotta read it because it's fun. I've read this book. This has been in the works for, I would say, at least 14 years. Because I started it and then I left it, and then I started it and I left it, and then I finally get an editor, and then COVID hit. So I didn't meet with her, and then we finally started meeting, and she was really slow about it. And I mean, she would take weeks to give me a page or two. I said, I can't deal with this. So I decided to go and get my own editor and go to Balboa Press to get the book done. But yeah, so this book continues on right where it leaves off. Many more funny things, the same cast of characters, and even more characters come into play. So before I tell you the story about what happened with Richard, any other story, any other questions that you guys want to ask about the book or any of the characters? Don't ask for the ending, don't ask for anything like that. But anything else I can answer.
How does your husband feel about your book?
Oh, he loves it.
He loves it? Yeah.
Yeah, he knows he's my last love. Yeah, he knows he's my last love. And I already explained about the imprint, right? That imprint happens, if it happens during your adolescent years, that's it. It's imprinted in there while your identity is being formed. That's why people always remember their first love. Doesn't mean they end up with a first love, but it means they have a special spot in their heart for the first love. It doesn't mean that it's the last love. But at this point, I actually think Richard is dead. But that's another story. I can tell all these stories after I answer your questions. Do you guys have any songs or any memories or the name of a first love that triggers that memory and smell? Anything? Does anybody want to offer that up?
I have a first love.
Uh-huh.
But I met him when I was like 26.
Oh, okay.
But if I were to see him in the street, it wouldn't be a good story. I don't know if he'd like be very violent.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, well, maybe this first love
Yeah.
should have been the last love. Okay, that's not good if you want to kill me or something on the street. I hope you never run into me. Okay, what about a good story, a good memory? Yeah.
First love lasted 63 years.
Oh my God. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
That rarely happens. Congratulations. Did you guys meet in high school?
Well, I've known him since I was 7, he was 8.
Oh, wow.
First name was the junior.
Love it. Love it.
Okay, I love this story. And you guys are the perfect people to be here today. You know, in my case, my first love didn't work because, of course, Bobby, por favor, let me go out with them now. You know, that's when I said begging instead of making coffee for, what's that? What are you guys having?
He said they got.
Okay. That was excuse my last round. But, okay. How much
What's
time do I have? Oh,
what's
I'm done.
what's a song that resonates for your first time?
My eyes adored you.
Oh, wow.
Because one time he walked me home, and it was really far for him. He walked me all the way home. And that whole song starts like, carried your books from school, playing make believe you're married to me. I don't know how to sing, but that little song, every time I hear it, it takes me back to that walk down the street as he was walking home.
And now, what's your song for your true love?
What is that song? You Are My World.
Yeah.
You Are My World by Helen Reddy. And I played it to him it was a Valentine's Day. And he came in the room and he just laid beside me because he always takes Valentine's days off. So we could spend it together. And I think that's something. So he is my world. Even though today I was very, very mad at that world when we didn't know where we were going. Oh, keep going, no, not here, go, don't turn there.
We have 276 North La Cienega. Now, like, there is no 276. There's nothing here.
Yeah, so it was a very scary moment.
15, she goes, oh, it's 276 South.
Yes. It was a scary moment, but I made it. I know I'm out of time, Sam.
We have a question from one of our viewers.
Oh, yeah.
It's from Ellen Dean, and we have 80 viewers right now.
Okay.
All right, so what do you think is the main lesson we can learn from the book?
Okay, I think there is a big lesson here that while your first love is so impactful, it doesn't have to be your last love.
Yes.
There are many loves that can happen in your life.
Absolutely.
And, even if somebody has the misfortune of losing someone, which is just a tragedy, you still can find love again because there's an abundance of love. Love never runs out. So, yes, there's always love there. All right, so I guess I'm out of time, you guys. It's 11. Oh, okay, I want to hear the story. Can I say it real quick? Okay, so I never forgot Richard. And when the 10-year reunion came along, I said, I want to find him. So I started digging. I started trying to find his some family members, what was the mother's name? He came from a big family. I found the mother's name. I called, and she said, listen, Richard is going through a really hard time right now. Just don't call again. Just stay away, please. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. I'm not going to listen to this mother. So I typed up, wrote a letter and put it on my company letterhead and sent it to him so that the mother would think that it was a company type of letter and she would not open it. So I was pretty smart. I was 27. And so guess what? He got the letter and nothing happened. And then months later, I received this 7-page handwritten letter from him. I went into jail. And it was very sad. I have it. I still have it, and I cry every time I read it because he went through so many hard things. And he said that one of the hardest things was when I told him that I couldn't hang out with him. He was finally happy, and then I came and said I can't hang out with him anymore. So that was one of his things. And then he grew up, and it, oh, by the way, so at 19, I got married because that's what you did in my family. You're 19, you're a girl, you get married in a Hispanic family.
Wow.
And I got married, and one day my mom comes up and goes, oh, you got a call from somebody. I said, who? And I still hadn't forgotten Richard. Oh, his name was Richard. And I told him you were married. Oh my God.
My gosh.
Anyway, that was just devastating that he had to hear that. And that was in the letter too. Hard. So anyway, I got the letter and I was, oh my God. Anyway, so in that, I wrote him back and that was it. And then one day, I'm sitting in my office with another girl. Everybody else was in a sales kind of hall. Everybody was gone. And I hear the ding, ding, ding of the door. And I go like this. And I go like this. And I'm like, and in comes Richard.
Wow.
So we come in, I'm in shock, as you can imagine, right? I'm in shock. He's live right there. He looked different, heavier, but it was him. We went in and talked, and I told him everything how I felt because I wanted him to make sure he didn't think it was me, that it was my parents, it was my puppy that did all that. And I told him that he had a very different view of everything. It was like two different stories. Like watching the car wreck when somebody says the car was blue. No, it wasn't. It was red. It was kind of like that. Everybody had a different view of the story. And that was good. And then we met the next day for lunch. We brought the yearbook, and he said the high school was the worst time of my life. It was just very painful. And for me, high school was the best time of my life. I still don't even remember my graduation. I blocked it out. But so that happened. So I got to see him again. And I finally found him again on email. And then his mother had just died. He couldn't talk. Then months later, something else happened. He had been sick. And then finally the book came out. I said, okay, I'm gonna let him know the book came out. Then I dedicated a little bit to him because he was the inspiration for the book. Nothing bad. Nothing bad. And he had almost responded. So he had had a heart attack, I think, sometime in his 50s. So I'm pretty sure he passed away. And you never would know about this book. Anyway, I don't say against all at the time. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Have a good coffee. Have a good coffee, and let me know what you think. And then you can get the sequel, because it's really fun. It's really funny.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys with Poppy part of the bar. Poppy, please. What a wonderful love story. I love stories. And I want you to know you encouraged me, Rosanna. You really did encourage me because I'm a divorcee. And I've been divorced for like 8 years now. And I'm like, okay, Lord, when is my next coming? You know? Oh, okay, got you, girl. Yep, she said, it's coming, it's coming. He's coming, right? Okay. When next? Is he 2 weeks away or months away? Or, I mean, I'm just saying.
This is my second husband.
Right, I know. I love that because you said your first love and your last love.
No, the first love was different than my first husband.
Okay.
And you were 19.
I'm married and anything.
19.
And then your last love, this one. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I watched him as you were up here talking. And I could just see the love in his eyes as you were just up here sharing your story and everything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what is he thinking? Like, what does he want to say? So you know what? I'm gonna come back and ask him, right? Yes, let me know your thoughts, sir. What's your name?
Joe.
Joe, now please tell us what you were thinking about your wonderful wife as she was here, because I can see it all in your eyes.
Yeah, well, no, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I'm such a supporter, right? It's like so many things that she does, and I really, the life that we've had together has been, as everybody knows, it's been any kind of relationship. It's just been, the shit show, but it works, and it takes a lot of time, and we've grown and become such good friends and spend so much time together, and we have so much fun with these books, as we're doing these editing scenes, and she'll come up with like a little story, and I'll say, okay, get that on the ground. Okay, now you try to get yourself up over here. She's like, okay, that's not gonna work. I'm like, no. So a little bit, and so, we sit down, talking and just talk about it. And so it's like I've lived through all of these, and it's just so much fun to see that now through, ReadersMagnet, it's really happening. Here it is, it's in book form. I can see it now, and it's very proud of all the work that she's put in, and all the time that we been together, it's just been, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Are you crying right now? He does cry in the movies. Look, I do too. I'm a cry, I'm a cry, baby. I cry over everybody, okay? But that is so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing with us that beautiful, beautiful story. And I think it's amazing whenever you can have a partner who supports the spouse, whether they're in the forefront or not. Sometimes whenever one spouse is in the forefront and the other one isn't, sometimes there's competition and they get jealous and everything, but I don't see that with you guys. And I am so thankful that you are just supporting her and giving her ideas and all that good stuff. So, y'all on your way, okay? Y'all in Beverly Hills all this, so listen, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. So, now, I'll come back over to you right quick. Because, you told me that, he was coming. So I want you to go just see a little bit. Can you see a little bit? See a little bit? Tell me like we might when it gonna be or in the next week. Oh, honey child. Oh, my book might be here in Beverly Hills or LA. Is that it? Since I'm gonna be here till Monday, we gonna see if that happens. But wait. Today is what? Today what? Thursday? Okay, so I actually got until next Thursday, so he might be in my tab. I don't know. We're gonna see which one. And I'm gonna make sure, no, he ain't. He in LA. Oh, shut the front door. He in LA, honey. Well, I really enjoyed the love story. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna ask Dave a question. Derek, what did you think about this love story?
Oh, it's a beautiful story. I wanted to say, what about when your first love, like your story, didn't turn out to be what you thought it would be, right? And so I that's my story too. So it's beautiful to hear that it's possible.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that you know what I mean? Because hence so you want to be a first lady right here. So remember y'all gotta come back at what time? 2:30, right? 2:30. We'll got this, okay? And so and so I'm hopeful and I'm ready, to receive that. So thank y'all for being the first ones to go today. All right, let's see if we're about ready for our second author to come up. Are we ready? 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 All right. So let me go ahead and introduce our second author for today. That is Christopher Holler. He's going to be coming back for day 2 to share with us. And so this book, of course, is an exploration of 4 of the philosophical principles that lead to the formation of the modern liberal republic that functions on the democratic process. The essays are in order: freedom of conscience, secularism, presumption of innocence before the law, the rule of the law. It also explores the threats faced by our republic in the 21st century. Now, about the author. Mr. Hallra holds degrees in political science and education from the University of Oklahoma and is a political and social commentator on his blog site, overwhelmingwitness.com, and his YouTube channel, you guys, Art Life Enterprises. So let's welcome with a round of applause, Christopher Holler.
So I'm going to need just a minute because I have an entire light show. No, I'm kidding. I have a presentation that I have, and I thought I was going to be third. I found it about 25 seconds ago. I'm going to be second. So,
no worries. While he's getting set up, I want to remind you, well, not remind you, but let you guys know that we actually have pizza coming for you guys. So we want you to stay here and eat with us, okay, while we have a virtual viewing here shortly. So just wanted to let you know. So I hope you guys are hungry. Stay with us.
so I'm not getting that much that you can get. Okay, all right. Okay, we're all set. Okay. Just about all set. Now we're all set. Okay, so the book is Four Pillars of Republicanism. Essays on the foundational principles of our republic and its preservation. This is really going to be difficult for me. I like to move around when I talk. So, but anyway, let's just get into it. So why did I write this book? There's a number of reasons. First of all, Ben Franklin warned us, a republic, if you can keep it, okay? A number of people confronted him when he emerged from the Constitutional Convention after the final draft of our Constitution had been agreed upon, and a group of people asked him, so what kind of government have you made for us? And he is rumored to have responded to them, a republic, if you can keep it. Okay. The second reason I wrote this book is because this was not entirely unexpected. It was unexpected by a lot of people, but for those of us who spend 25 hours a day thinking about American politics and society, it was not entirely unexpected. Okay. And third, there are many reasons, but I've identified three, because what is at the bottom of this screen is because this has become the voice and message of one of our two major political parties. So every year, there's something called the CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference. And the one this year, and they may do it semi-annually, was held February 21st through the 24th in Washington, D.C. They go to various cities each time they do it. And the very first speaker at this conference, Jack Posobiec, said this: "Welcome to the end of democracy. We are here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here." Okay? So these things caused the need in my mind and heart for this book. So let's get a couple of definitions before I go. So what we're talking about here, what we live in, technically, is called a modern liberal republic. Okay? And it was the form of government envisioned and created by the political philosophers during the Age of Enlightenment and Reason. Okay? Now it is Republican because it describes a system of government that operates through the democratic process. And it is liberal because it describes a system of government that is designed to be inclusive of the greatest number of interests and groups possible within society. Okay? That is what a modern liberal republic is. All right, so let's get to this first essay, freedom of conscience. Okay? Now I define freedom of conscience as this. The individual must always, at all times and under all circumstances, be free without legal consequence to think whatever they want. Likewise, the individual must also always, at all times and under all circumstances, be free without legal consequence to believe whatever they want. Okay, that is freedom of conscience. Okay, but freedom of conscience must be limited to thought and belief. It cannot translate directly into freedom of action. Okay, our actions must always be regulated to some extent, and they are within society. Almost all statutory law and government regulation and a number of our amendments to our Constitution exist for this purpose. Now, for most of us, we live each day not even thinking about this regulation of our actions, because we live within the confines of statutory law and accepted social norms. So that regulation is completely transparent. But the farther you move away from living within the confines or the parameters of statutory law or accepted social norms, the more opaque that regulation becomes. Okay, until you're confronted, as an example, with a pair of handcuffs around your wrist. Okay, so an important practical manifestation of freedom of conscience is that in a modern liberal republic, The state does not have the right to tell any individual who that person's friends or enemies are. Okay, the state has the right, and the state takes the right to say, hey, we think that this person, group, government, whatever, act and speak and basically exist in what we see is coherent with what we see as our national interests. Or on the other side of that, this person, group, government, whatever, exists and act in a manner that we see, that the state says that we see, but you don't have to see it that way as working counter to what we see as our national interest. The state does not have the right to tell you that these people are your friends or these people are your enemies. Okay? That is your freedom of conscience. Okay? So both assumption and the transition of power in monarchies and civil dictatorships of both the left and the right always possess, at the very least, the threat of violence. Okay? This is one reason republics exist at all, is to remove violence from the political system and its processes. Okay? In a modern liberal republic, everyone has the right to participate in the democratic process. Everyone. Okay? Whether you are on the extreme right or the extreme left. And I have to tell you, I don't really get it when I write on American politics and society, which I do often. Right now, I'm working on an essay on the legacy of the Roberts Court. Okay? John Roberts being the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court is known as the Roberts Court. Okay? So, I don't really deal with policy. Okay? I deal with the existence of the Republic. Because policy is always on a pendulum. It goes to the left, then it goes to the right, then back to the left. And through this perpetual system of compromise and coalition shifting and alliance building, we move slowly but inexorably toward a more perfect union. Okay? The things I write about are deal with the Republic. And I have to tell you that the great, I had a slide in here what you took out. And that is because the Department of Homeland Security publishes each year, okay, semi-annually, a threat assessment to the United States. And in every threat assessment document, most of you probably haven't read it, I read them all the time, okay, is that the greatest threat to our republic right now, okay, comes from domestic right-wing extreme groups, okay? That's the greatest threat to our republic at this moment. And I finally, really identified it as my fight in this world. My fight is against white supremacy, white Christian nationalism, neo-Nazism, fascism, those elements of the political spectrum are what my fight in this world is to stop. Okay? If you are interested in gaining some sort of understanding of how global and how networked and how interconnected what is generally comes under the umbrella of the white power movement on planet Earth is, I suggest you read a book called It Can Happen Here by Dr. Alexander Levon Hinton, who teaches at Rutgers University. It's a great read and a scary book. Okay, I'm telling you. So, but anyway, let's get back to the good part. Everybody being able to participate in the political process in a modern liberal republic is the marketplace of ideas. That's what it's built upon. The people who designed this form of government, it's like there has to be a way to bring the marketplace of ideas all together. Okay, but everybody must participate honestly, peacefully, and respectfully regarding the differing opinions of others. So the second essay is secularism. Okay, now I like to start this kind of off kilter a little bit by saying that there are people out there who are going to try and tell you that this country wasn't basically founded by and for the Protestant evangelical agenda on this continent. And everything's going pretty well until you have people with liberal views and who acquired some sort of influence say things like this: the government of the United States is in no way founded on the Christian religion. The United States of America should have a foundation free from influence of the clergy. And keep looking at this. George Washington said that. Okay? So you don't have to go very far into the minutia, okay, of people who had a hand in founding this country to understand how they knew that not only a politically active church, but any sort of collusion between the state and the church would destroy a republic. Okay? So we have to understand that both the church and the state are institutions of control, first, last, and always. Okay? So in a republic versus a dictatorship versus a monarchy, the amount of control that the government has over the life of the individual in any republic is actually one that a modern liberal republic that operates on a democratic process is pretty light. Okay? Dictatorships will always try and inject themselves into every aspect of the individual's life. Okay? So in dealing with this,
in dealing with the issue of secularism, we have to look at the First Amendment to the Constitution, that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So if you really know anything about the Constitution, you know that it basically our form of government is laid out in the first 7 articles of the Constitution. The first 3 articles are the most prominent because they lay out the responsibilities and the restrictions on the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of our government. But there are actually 7 articles. Okay? And so but once they had the form of government laid out, the very first thing they said was, oh yeah, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The first thing they did was say, so we're going to put a wall between collusion between the church and the state. First things first, folks. There will be no collusion between the church and the state in this country. And even in the 6th Amendment of the Constitution concludes that no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Okay? Oop. I keep hitting that button. Oop. All right, here we go. So in looking at the issue of secularism, I came up with basically 3 rules that a secular republic has to maintain in order to remain a secular republic. Okay? Rule number 1, the state cannot favor one religious sect over another. Okay? It cannot favor Christianity over some sort of animistic religion. It cannot favor Islam over Judaism. It cannot favor Buddhism over Taoism or anything like that. It has to remain completely neutral and separate. Okay? Rule number 2, the state cannot use the nation's tax revenue to support the endeavors of any religious sect. Okay? This is because it cannot give to all sects that operate within that society equally. Okay? Unless, of course, it wants to tax the nation into absolute poverty and say we're going to raise your taxes about 5,000% because we have all these religious sects that want money and we got to give to them equally. And we can't do that. So the state cannot use our tax revenue to support the endeavors of any religious sect because this creates blatant favoritism, violating rule number 1. And it also, more importantly, creates a tacit violation of the First Amendment. Okay? And this is 2 quotes from the book on this matter. Financial support of the church through use of the nation's tax revenue not only creates tacit, if not blatant support for that religious sect's belief system, but it eventually alters that sect's dogma so that the favored sect begins to support and validate the actions of the state as an extension of the will of God. Okay, because that's the business churches are in. Churches are in the business of telling you what the will of God is. Okay, we know it, we interpret it, you just listen and obey. Okay, that's what churches do. Now, so I'm talking a lot about the church here, so I gotta let you know something. Um, I am, I think pastoring, okay, is an active thing, okay, that, you're active within a church and you do it. So right now, I am not a pastor, but I have been a pastor, and I am also an ordained minister, okay? But I understand that faith, that the principle of secularism, that means that my faith is my business, and I keep it my business, okay? Um, Policy in this country should be based on data streams, not somebody's superstition, okay? So also, financial support of the state for any religious sect invariably affects both the dogma of that religious sect and the politics of the state, so that they move ever closer to a single unit seeking control over the nation and the individual. So rule number 3, okay? Secularism is an essential principle of republicanism because it protects both the church and the state from each other. Okay, as institutions of control, they in both the church and the state seek power over people. Okay, so I have a quote here by Thomas Jefferson, and I got to tell you right now, I'm a big fan of old Tom Jefferson. Okay, I do not make any sort of apologies for the fact that he was a slaveholder or various things in his life. And when you're a slaveholder, that takes you into all sorts of nefarious acts, including sexual relations with people who have not the right to consent. Okay? So anyway, but the fruits of his intellect, okay, are something of which I am a big fan. Okay? I used to be able to recite the Declaration of Independence front to back. Okay, so anyway, in every country and in every age, the priest has been hostile to liberty. He is always in alliance with the despot, abetting his abuses in exchange for protection to his own. It is error alone that needs the support of government. Truth can stand by itself. Well said, Mr. Jefferson. I like it. All right, so this is a quote from the book, okay? Republics are always under pressure from non-democratic forces in this world. The secular forces of totalitarianism and the totalitarian forces of religion are always attempting to undermine the rights of the nation and the individual, thereby subjugating both to their wills. We must remember that in no religious sect's vision of heaven is that place of democracy. In fact, heaven is the most totalitarian realm ever created in the human imagination, and the worst apology for religion's general and unwavering support for dictatorship. A God does not put his decisions before any committee. Okay? So, that's just a little bit about the essay on secularism. Okay? So the next one is presumption of innocence before the law. Okay? And unlike freedom of conscience and secularism, which are experienced by the individual on a level that encompasses the whole of society, presumption of innocence before the law is only experienced on a practical level, on an individual basis, and only under specific circumstances. Okay? When you are stopped for a traffic violation, okay, there is a certain level of presumption of innocence before the law that you experience, but you only experience it because you are going to be accused of having violated a traffic code. Okay? Presuming people innocent is not always easy. It's not easy. We are programmed one way or another to see guilt after an accusation. Okay? But we must do it. We have to understand that this principle, which is experienced by individuals, must be held in each of us, in our hearts, that we presume that someone is innocent, and whatever they're accused of, until they have been found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction and by a jury of their peers. We have to live that. Every one of us. It's important to this republic. But I'm convinced, really, that lip service is all the United States has ever given to this foundational principle of republicanism. I don't care what is carved into the facades on our courthouses, okay? Lip service is all we have ever given this, okay? Because do you think that a lower to middle class black man in America receives the same presumption of innocence that an upper middle class white man receives? They do not. We know this, okay? So presumption of innocence is not distributed equally in society among, all racial, ethnic, sexually oriented, or gender identifying groups. So even though presumption of innocence exists in America, some must fight to experience it, while others are granted it automatically, okay? So, this situation gets into the whole thing of racism, okay? But I have to tell you, I'm not going to get into talking about it, but in my view, racism is not an American problem. Racism is a human problem.
That's right.
Okay? It exists in every culture, that ever through the history of our species. Okay? These hatreds, in-group, out-group functions have existed. Okay? It's a human problem. So we've got two amendments we've got to deal with in presumption of innocence. The right of the people, the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution reads, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued except upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Fifth Amendment reads, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases of the land or naval forces or the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Okay, so we have various social practices which we have taken on in this country, which fly in the face of this principle of presumption of innocence, which is basically expressed in these two amendments to our Constitution. Okay? Three social practices that threaten the principle of presumed innocence and deny the individual the protections guaranteed in the Fourth and Fifth Amendments to our Constitution. First is qualified immunity, which is something we seem to have given to our police forces. Okay, which basically, as I define qualified immunity, which is immunity from prosecution for the commission of an otherwise criminal act for which another person would face arrest and prosecution. Okay, you are immune from this. Okay, qualified immunity allows a police officer to act as judge, jury, and executioner, and then claim they felt threatened. That is the only claim they have to make if they take the life of an innocent person. Okay, that person is innocent because they have not been found guilty. They have not gone through due process of law. Okay, the Fifth Amendment says quite clearly, nor be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. Okay, not all Western cultures have made the deal we have somehow made that police are allowed to do this. In fact, if you look at our sister countries in Europe, the number of instances in which the police have actually killed someone are incredibly low. It's been almost 10 years in Norway since a police officer killed someone. And the last statistics I read on part of this problem was that in the United States of America, an unarmed Black American dies at the hands of the police every 8 days. Okay? The no-knock warrant. Okay? So the Fourth Amendment states quite clearly that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. And we have the case of Breonna Taylor, a black woman who was a first responder. The police thought her boyfriend was guilty of a crime. And in the middle of the night, as she's sleeping in their bed, they came in numbers, busted through the door with no knock, saying, police, we have a search warrant or an arrest warrant. Came in, her boyfriend who was there, who possessed a firearm. All these people are busted into the house. He starts shooting at them. They start shooting back. She was killed in her bed as she laid in her bed. Okay. And then the cash bail system. So the cash bail system creates a situation in which presumption of innocence comes down to a person's access to funds. Okay. If you have no money and you are accused of a crime, you will sit in jail until your court date. On the other hand, if you're accused of a crime, okay, and you have access to loads of money, you will walk free. Okay, your presumption of innocence will be granted to you. While the person who just doesn't have any money, their presumption of innocence is swept from them as they sit in a jail cell until God knows when their court date will come up. Okay, so let's get to the last one, the rule of law. I didn't actually, when I wrote these essays, I wasn't actually planning to do an essay on the rule of law, but current American society required that I did so. Okay, so the rule of law is basically this. Okay, the law rules, people do not. This is why people who choose public service as a mode of making a living take an oath to defend our Constitution, not their supervisor. Because the Constitution and our statutory law books are what rules. People do not. Okay? Now, I define the rule of law, okay, as this, that in a society that adheres to the philosophical proposition of the rule of law, those people who possess vast amounts of wealth and power are and must be held to the same standards of conduct as all other members of that society, even those who possess no wealth or power. Likewise, if you are a member of that same society and you possess little or no wealth or power, you are and must be guaranteed the same protections under the law as every other member of that society, including those who possess vast amounts of wealth and power. Okay, that's the principle of the rule of law, stated with more commas than the law rules. People do not. Okay, so when you deal with the rule of law, you kind of move away from dealing with the legislative and the executive branches, and you move into dealing primarily with the judicial branch. Okay, and this is why. It's because the role, this is from the book, page 47, the role of the judicial branch is to act as the last bastion of the equitable application of the rule of law in this country. I say equitable application because of the predilection of legislatures and chief executives to draft, execute, and implement laws that are either not equitable at their conception or not applied equitably among all members of society. Okay? This is, if you're to have the rule of law, then we depend on our judiciary to ensure that this happens. That the laws that are conceived to be not equitable at their conception, okay, do not become law. And that those laws that are on the books that have been found to be constitutionally secure, okay, are applied equitably throughout all members of society. Okay. All right. As I said earlier, republics are always under pressure from non-democratic forces in this world. The secular forces of totalitarianism and the totalitarian forces of religion are always attempting to undermine the rights of the nation and the individual, thereby subjugating both to their wills. Okay? So, the problem is, I think everybody understands that we have a for lack of a better term, crisis situation in our country and where we're going to go. So how do we extract ourselves from our current and worsening predicament? Okay, the secret and the solution always is education. Okay, when I was a child, and in elementary and junior high school, we were educated in these principles of the founding of the modern liberal republic. Okay, but I don't think that children these days are really educated in these principles. Okay, but you have a problem. Okay, because when you get into talking about something like education, in order to coming up with a standardized national curriculum would be well nigh impossible because, okay, we have 50 different states that have a certain amount of sovereignty within the republic, and it's difficult, if not impossible, if not inappropriate, even to try and impose a nationwide standardized curriculum in the principles that lend themselves to the formation of a republic at all. Okay, so that is my presentation. I want to thank you guys for being here, for sitting through it. For the second day, I did this yesterday. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about what I've said today, hit me with them. Okay. Now my hearing's not very good, so you have something to say, I'm going to come by and ask you, and then listen to you, and then try and answer your question or address it.
Just curious, do you have any information on, like, how did we go from this formation of a republic with their constitution to this two-party?
So the two-party system. So the two-party system was kind of, in one way or another, implemented into the Constitution. Okay, I would actually love to see a proportional representation system introduced into the United States, because when you have a two-party system, you have a winner-take-all election process. Okay, that you and me are running against each other as members of the two different major parties. You beat me by one vote. You take every seat in the government for your party that is allotted to our state in this particular instance. A proportional representation system, okay, says that on a nationwide basis, this party received this many votes. That means that this percentage of legislative seats are going to be allocated to that party. Okay, most European governments run on a proportional representation system. That's why you have, say, in Germany, from the Social Democrats to the Democratic Nationalists to the Green Party, whatever. You know, the Green Party in an election got 15% of the vote, so 15% of the legislative seats go to them. Okay, but our Constitution, the way it is structured, kind of propels us to a two-party system. Okay, and so it would take a constitutional amendment, basically, to undo the two-party system. I made all that up. Ask me anything, I'll make up an answer. So,
will be a correction. So, speaking on the part where it said the law rules, not the people, what are your thoughts on like law versus morality? Like there are certain laws that we have that people would say, morally that's not right. Like an example I would say is like age of consent. Like in some places, like in California, it's 18 years old, and other places it's much younger.
Yeah.
But there are people that argue like, oh well, it's legal, so it doesn't matter. But to other people, morally that's wrong. So
So the question is basically regarding the dichotomy between law and morality. That's an ongoing question of the human species. How do you, or is it possible to make sure that those things that you feel are moral are incorporated into the law. And those things that you find immoral are not incorporated into law. Whereas on the other hand, the things that I find are moral, which are the things that you find immoral, should be incorporated into the law. This sort of predicament of the human species in formation of government at all is difficult to answer, because you're not dealing in absolutes. And that's why I feel, okay, that law should be based upon data, okay, and not someone's belief structure, okay. If you want to make, and this is especially important and prevalent within the criminal justice system, okay, because you have a situation. Let me just talk briefly. I think I only have like a minute left, or maybe going over, about recidivism. Okay, that is somebody convicted of a crime, serving their time, being back out into the workforce, okay, into society, and then committing a crime that sends them back. Okay, in more cases than you might suspect, that crime that sent them back to prison was not another commission of an actual felonious crime, but a technical violation of their probation. Okay, so you have to decide what you want to do as a society. Personally, I feel that once a person comes out back into society, that we must do everything we can to reintegrate them in a positive manner. Okay. I read a book one time about a father, a priest here in Los Angeles, who has run for some 20 years a business, okay, that their whole thing is to take people out of the gang life and get them into a productive lifestyle, okay? But he said, he goes, I never met anybody within the gang system that was running toward the gang system that wasn't running away from something else. Okay, so my question is, when I talk to people who are saying they've got to be tough on crime, so well, when you do that, you have to understand that what you're going to create are tax revenue consumers. I want to see people be tax revenue producers. Okay, I want people who have made a mistake in the past to come out, be reintegrated, be forgiven to a certain extent for what they have done, and reintegrated with make it easy for them to get employment, make it easy for them to become tax revenue generators instead of tax revenue consumers. That's the problem. Our criminal justice system creates people who become lifelong tax revenue consumers. Okay, that's immoral, in my opinion. Okay, but then there are people who say, well, you just got to they're criminals. They made a mistake.
I just have a statement to say. We have to understand something. A lot of the things that have happened and changed is the past. Yeah. All the bad things that people have done have created other laws. So there's certain things that happen that we were allowed to do when we were 16 at my age. We're not allowed to do until we're 21 now, because people were doing things. You can't be in a car if you're 16 or 17 with another 17-year-old. They created all these laws, all the accidents and all this stuff that was happening. So a lot of this stuff happens because of the past things that other people have done as well. So we have to realize that we have created our own laws and our rules because of what other people have done.
I would like to say that modern human society is a very complicated mess, but that would be untrue.
Yes.
Because all human society has always been a very complicated mess.
I just wanted people that are here to understand, we kind of created our own laws by some of our own mistakes that we have done in the past.
All right. Okay. I think they're getting ready to get the cane out, put me off the stage. So thank you guys once again for sitting through this. So.
All right, round of applause again for Christopher Holler with the 4 pillars of republicanism. Yes, yes, yes. So we're getting ready to move into our next author who will be watching her video virtually here. And so I'm just going to introduce about her book. And remember, we have some pizza and food here for you so you can enjoy while we're watching her virtual video. And so Dr. Susan Arula Gittel, the name of her book is Giving is Not Just for Trade Off. Let me trade off. Is that a little bit better? All right. Giving is not just for the very rich, a how to guide for giving and philanthropy, a valuable resource for you. Giving is not just for the very rich is an inspiring, easy to use guide which gives you humorous, creative ideas on how to reap the many benefits of giving. It's all about your feeling connected to worthwhile programs, achieving a sense of purpose, and deriving immeasurable pleasure from helping others. About the author, Dr. Susan Aurelia Telson offers you reasons to give, considers values and concerns, and advises you on how to give wisely. She presents you with examples from the wealthiest donors, innovative givers, entrepreneurs, celebrities, government officials, nonprofit professionals, volunteers, and social media networkers. To help you zero in on major areas for your giving, she reviews religious philanthropy, education K through 12, higher education, science and health, arts and cultures, sports, multi-purpose, umbrella organizations, awards, and international aid. Finally, she shows you how to evaluate charities, make choices, and realize your commitments. So this will be the presentation for Dr. Susan Aurelia Gittelson.
Hello, I'm so delighted to be with you because I have a formula for making your life easier, and that's what we're all looking for. In my book, Giving is Not Just for the Very Rich. The shortest way of summarizing it is saying that if you give to others, if you help others, you'll feel better yourself. You don't have to feel lonely. You don't have to feel despondent. You don't have to feel the end of the earth is there. No, just go out, talk to your family members, to your friends, to people on the street, even anybody, in a pleasant way in order to encourage other people. And lo and behold, you'll feel better yourself. What could be easier? What could be more pleasant? And yet, so many people feel alone, distressed. They take drugs. Some of them even go as far as committing suicide when there's no need for that. When instead of that, we can have a positive attitude and enjoy life and encourage others. So that's what I've been doing all my life since I was a child. My father was a dynamo businessman, and he didn't have any sons. And his wife wasn't interested in all the things he was doing. And my sister was interested in boys, and he had me. So from the age of 9, he would discuss everything with me, and he'd take me to board meetings, and they would say, Dr. Gittleson, meaning my father, won't you speak? Won't you contribute? And he would say, oh, no, why don't you call on my daughter, Susan? She's very good at all these things. So from the age of 9, I've been talking in public. And that's why I'm not afraid of talking to you now, because it's natural. And because I always have a positive message. And I always love to encourage others, to praise others, to find ways for other people to feel proud of themselves for good reasons, not because they're selfish, but because they're helping other people. Now, we have an example just recently of someone who has given more than anyone else. A wonderful woman named Ruth Gottesman just gave $1 billion to the Albert Einstein Medical School in the Bronx in order to have funds to invite those people who want to become doctors to go to medical school and not have to pay the fees, because this is the school is located in one of the poorest sections in New York City. And for someone to go to school and spend all the hours and then have debts that take years to pay off makes life very difficult. So here is a donor who, with her husband, has made a lot of money on the stock exchange. Now, some people would take the money and go off and buy jewelry or, buy a yacht or buy this or buy that. Not this lovely lady. She said the most important thing we need is to have doctors. And how do we get doctors? We have to go to young people who don't have the funds to go to medical school, and we will offer them a chance to have a proper medical education as long as they study and work hard and so forth. And when they're finished, we hope that they will help people in the neighborhood. And if they want to do something else, okay, but at least they will be properly trained and they won't have debts. Now, this is a gift of $1 billion, and there aren't many people who can afford to give $1 billion. Certainly I can't, and maybe you can't. But this is the spirit that really counts. The idea of sharing what we do have and encouraging others. And that's why I wrote this book, which is called Giving is Not Just for the Very Rich, a how-to guide for giving and philanthropy. That's for all of us. Because just by talking to members of your family or the neighborhood or even people on the street and just saying something positive, smiling at people, encouraging people, helping people to have more fulfilling lives. This is a wonderful process. And what does it do? It means that you made somebody else happy, and by the same token, you're making yourself happy. I do this all the time. I love it. This is why I told you what I was doing when I was 9 years old. Well, I'm no longer 9 years old. I'm a few decades older, but I do this all the time. I mean, I feel so young because how do you feel young? If you're always doing new things, if you're always thinking of how to make other people happy, and then you become happier yourself. Now, how did I get to this? Well, I was fortunate enough to go to very good schools where we always had discussions, and I always participated and asked questions. So I went to Hunter College High School and Barnard College and the Columbia School of International Public Affairs, CIPA, and the Columbia Graduate School to get my doctorate. That's a lot of studying, but it went easily because I always asked questions. I wanted to know what other people think, what the teacher thought, what we can do about it. Are there any activities that should be follow-up to what we're learning in the classroom? And this has meant a very lively life for me. And not only that, but after my freshman year at Barnard, I took a year off for a Youth Leadership Institute in Israel. And there were no academic classes. And I spent 3 months on a kibbutz, an agricultural settlement, where I knew nothing. And other people who were socialists or whatever, who had the theory, they didn't feel comfortable getting their hands dirty. But I said, if I'm here, I'm going to learn. And I spoke with people. Fortunately, I speak Hebrew, and I asked them about themselves, and I became part of the group, so that I got one of the most important titles, not the PhD, but Chevermani, which comes from Chaver, friend. It means you're one of the group. And this is one of the best ways to help others, not to come in from a superior point of view, or I know more than you do, why should I bother with you? No, it's rather, tell me more about what you're doing and how I can help you. And this was such a lifelong lesson for me, because when I went back to the academic world and later on business, all kinds of things that I've done that I didn't expect to do, everywhere I went, I asked people about themselves, and I tried to understand what's important to them so that I could cooperate with them, assist them, work with them. And it makes such a difference. So that, for example, when I met people, I went to one board meeting and I was sitting next to a gentleman who turned out to be the head of a university. And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I give awards." He said, "Really? I've been looking for someone who gives awards." Well, lo and behold, it turns out he was the head of an organization called the Center for the Study of the Presidency. And this is a group that has annual meetings in Washington, D.C., and hundreds of people come, young people, come from colleges all over the United States and all over the world. And they're there to listen to speakers like the President of the United States, or senators or congresspeople, or journalists, or public officials, or whatever it is, and listen to them and ask questions. So you have a real feeling of what government is like. And this is especially important for people who are developing ambitions. Oh, I want to be a congressperson. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, here are real practitioners, and you can ask them questions and try to understand. Now, what was our contest? We gave 10 prizes a year for the best essays. And there's a competition. And we found the people who were most proficient, and we recognized them, which gave them a leg up and something they could put on their CV afterwards. Now, I was so delighted to meet the students, because again, it's one thing to go to an excellent university and learn as much as you can, but that doesn't mean that you really know what's going on in the country unless you meet people from all over, different states, different cities, different countries, and try to understand them. Now, excuse me, what really struck me one year, I sat at a table with students from a certain state, and I noticed that there seemed to be half the students on one side and half the students on the other. Why was this? Because one group came from wealthier families. Their parents were professionals, or they owned factories, or they did something. So they were very prosperous. And the children went to university without thinking about it, because the parents paid. And the other side was for working class people who were not socially acceptable. But very often, they were the ones who would work harder and would end up as senators and presidents and other things. So for me, it was such a lesson on democracy. Unless, there are times in our country like now when people separate into groups, and some people think they're better than others, so they go to this party or that party. But ideally, people would communicate with each other, listen to each other, and help each other. So this was an example. I mean, I did this for 20 years and I loved it. Another example is people in these various academic circles knew that I was interested in human rights and helping people and so on. And I was invited to meet with the deans and professors from the Columbia Law School. Now, I never went to law school. I didn't expect to go to law school, but they wanted me to give an award for human rights, because this is one of the things that I advocated. And we did that every year at a reception. We had a human rights award for the leading graduate school law students. And lo and behold, many of these same law students went on to become the top professors in the field. And having recognition at an early stage made life easier and more desirable. So this is the kind of thing I've always loved doing, and I've done it. And so much so that more than 40 years ago, I established an award at Columbia SIPA, the School of International Public Affairs, for human values in international affairs. And originally, we chose, that's always the faculty chooses. I would not have the goal to choose people when there are experts who can do the proper job. But I just knew the significance of it. And we started with essays, one essay, two essay. Also, I hadn't given that much money. So then whenever I had any money for anything, I would add it to the funds for this special award at SIPA. And eventually, the faculty decided they would do workshops, not just writing about human values, but also organizing groups of graduate students to go to different countries and study, let's say, for 2 weeks, and ask questions and see what's going on. But this is not only for democracies, but also for autocracies and places where we wouldn't ordinarily visit, but we better know what's going on. We read about autocracies, certain leaders take over and won't share power, and all that. Many things go on. Well, it's better to see it in the field and think about it, write about it, and talk about it. And then you have a much greater understanding of what democracy, as we talk about it in America, what it really means and what it should mean. So this is my major project. I mean, it's endowed in my will. I think it's so important. And it's such a good way to meet students. Now, what about you or anybody else? That's why I have the whole book. I mean, we have so much to tell you about. Let me read from the back of this. This is the golden hands that give out awards, good feelings, greetings, not demanding much, but just wanting to help other people. And lo and behold, they feel better themselves. And we can help them. Now, in philanthropy, the largest group is religion. But religion is all-encompassing and, of course, includes many different religions, because religious groups gather together in a church, in a mosque, in a synagogue, and they form a community. And hopefully they help each other. They learn together. They see each other socially. they intermingle, maybe they intermarry, have very good social relations, and they have a sense of camaraderie, of esprit de corps. They feel together, they form a community. What could be better? Especially if you're a loner or you're a newcomer and you don't know how to get along, well, you join a church or another religious society, and you try to fit in and you learn the rules. So religion is the major unifying force. But that's not enough. There's education at all levels, starting with kindergarten and going on to high school and college and graduate school. And many of you have been there, so you know that in various schools, there's always the danger that the groups will form that decide they are exclusive and they won't admit others. And this is a problem. So it's up to the teachers, the professors, and the student leaders to find ways to integrate everybody into these organizations. And this is one of the best ways to make lifelong friends. A third area encompasses so many organizations in the health field, in the arts, and these days in artificial intelligence, whatever it is, people who have similar interests, and they gather together, and many of them join philanthropic organizations and work with others on programs to help people who are destitute, who don't have a place to live, who don't have food to eat, whatever. Having this attitude of helping others is so healthy, not only for the people you help, but also for yourself and for forming the groups and organizations that do this effectively. Now, how do you know? You say, oh, I want to help. Who should you help? How do you help? Well, fortunately, there are organizations that rate the different philanthropies to say which are the most effective ones. And in my book, I have all this information in very succinct form so that everything is underlined and so forth. So it's very easy to find the information that you want that's going to help you. So which are the main watchdog agencies? First of all, there's Charity Navigator, which evaluates over 5,500 of America's biggest charities in terms of their transparency, accountability, effectiveness, etc. Secondly is the Better Business Bureau. Third, GuideStar. And then great nonprofits, the independent sector, and so forth. There are over 1 million charities. And if you have limited resources, especially, or if you suddenly come into great riches, may it only happen to you, then you want to use your funds as effectively as possible to make sure that the schemers, and there are too many of them, come along and say, oh, just give me your money, I'll take care of it. Don't believe everything you hear. Be very careful, guide them, and go to these watchdog agencies to find out if these are legitimate philanthropies. Be very careful. Take time, and then your funds and your efforts will be more effective. Now, for example, I was with a friend the other day, and he told me that his daughter had come back to live with her parents because she had broken up with her boyfriend, and they had had a business together, and they disbanded it. And what was she going to do? Well, this is a perfect example of someone who could say, I don't know, I'm lost, I hope that doesn't happen to you. Instead of that, I did this. I went from academia to business, to philanthropy, to writing articles, to advising people, making speeches, doing all kinds of things. So anyone can do this if you're willing and you look around and you try to find out ways to be effective. And let's say you lost your job and you lost your loved one, and you lost this one, you lost that. What do you do? Well, the first thing is to look around and find a cause that needs you. It could be a nonprofit, or it could be starting a new business, whatever it is. The main thing is to do it and to always be a positive person and help others. And lo and behold, somehow the good feelings come back to you and you feel better and you find a new place for yourself. I've done it. That's why I can advise it. And it can happen to you, whoever. Now, I could go on, really tell you much more, but I want to advise you about how you can find more information yourselves. You can find my website at www.susanaureliagilson.com, and then social media accounts. We have Facebook, author Susan Aurelia Gittleson, Twitter, Susan Aurelia Gittleson, Instagram, Susan Aurelia Gittleson, and go on from there. By the way, my wonderful jacket, this is the second edition of the book. And why is it golden with hands outstretched? It just happens that the person who designed this saw my middle name, which is Aurelia, Latin. It comes from Marcus Aurelius, and it comes from gold. And it's like the golden rule. So we call this the golden approach to giving. Is not just for the very rich. It's for all of us. And we hope that you will get the book and help it, let it help guide you to doing positive things for others and for yourself. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Then let me read you a little more from the back of the book so you understand. This is a valuable resource for you. Giving is not just for the very rich. It's an inspiring, easy-to-use guide that gives you numerous creative ideas on how to reap the many benefits of giving. It's all about your feeling connected to worthwhile programs, achieving a sense of purpose, and deriving immeasurable pleasure from helping others. Dr. Susan Aurelia Gittleson offers you reasons to give, considers values and concerns, and advises you on how to give wisely. She presents you with examples from the wealthiest donors, innovative givers, social entrepreneurs, celebrities, government officials, nonprofit professionals, volunteers, and social media networks. You can become any of these and then help others. It helps you zero in on major areas for your giving. She reviews religious philanthropy, education K-12, higher education, science and health, arts and culture, sports, multi-purpose umbrella organizations, awards, and international aid. Finally, she shows you how to evaluate charities, make choices, and realize your commitments. All of this with a a not very big book, but with lots of information and lots of ideas and lots of encouragement for you to make the most of your abilities and your resources to help others and thereby to have a more meaningful life. Now, I started out at age 9, and I'm a little older than that, and I always feel ageless. I don't have to get old because I want to help people. And believe me, there's so much to do that you can always, if you just look around, instead of saying, I'm lonely, I don't know what to do with myself, you can come up with lots of ideas. And you can also watch television, other programs, news programs, whatever. And instead of looking for scandals, it's worth looking for projects and for leaders who've accomplished a great deal. And you could be among them. We wish you the very best. And please remember that giving is not just for the very rich.